You always love those first few seconds where it says you're live, but you're not actually live. Hey, what's up, bookworms? We are back with another Talk About Nothing, and I'm super thrilled tonight because tonight's guest, guys, is the one and only best comic in the universe, Bill Burr. No, really, guys. Josh.
Right?
No, you grew your hair back because everybody kept saying you look like Bill Burr. Guys, this is Josh from Red Fury Books. In case you don't know, he is a fellow Texan, and he is also a huge Stephen King fan. So I am excited that this finally happened. It feels like it's been taking too long to get this lined up, but I feel like I finally have caught up on all my Talk About Nothing guests, and I'm excited this is finally happening. So, Josh, how are you this evening?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. I've always been, such a fan of your channel, and I know we've chatted before, and I've been on your channel a couple times in your celebratory live stream and things like that. But it's fun to just be here and chat about books because I know we have a lot of really favorites in common. So yeah,
I think we do. I mean, I know Stephen King's going to come. That'll probably be the bulk of our conversation. Before we get into all that, you've been doing this about 2 years now? You started in 2021, right?
Yeah. Or did I? Yeah, it was 2021. Yeah, so about I guess 2.5. Something like that.
I know, because here's how I discovered your channel, because I was jealous because your top 10 Stephen King books has more views than my top Stephen King books videos do. So congratulations, you beat the algorithm. So that's still your biggest video?
That is. And actually most of that was actually in the last month.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, yeah, Halloween time it picks up a little bit.
Well, I think when Holly came out, because I want to say it was sitting at about 25,000 views, and it's at like 80 right now. I mean, it just absolutely blew up in the last month. But yeah, that's my highest. I only have 3 videos over 10,000 views, and that one is up at 80. I mean, my
biggest one, which is weird because horror doesn't move the needle on my channel at all. But my top 10 horror novels, which I did just completely because I had extra time like 3 years ago. And every time it starts to finally taper off, then another Halloween rolls around and it just takes off again.
Yeah, so, right.
That's cool. So God bless the 1 month of the year where everybody's in the mood to read some scary books. So what really made you say, I always ask my guests this, what made you one day look at this here YouTube thing and say, you know what, I'm going to turn the camera around and I'm going to do this? What made you finally do that? What was the primary influence there?
So for me, it was wanting to have something to show that's tangible that came out of the pandemic. And I felt like coming out of that, I didn't want to just look back and think that all I did was, sit on my couch for months at a time, even though that's a lot of what I did.
Right.
So, I actually did a little bit of writing, and that didn't go real well, but I was watching a lot of Booktube, and I wasn't really doing that before pandemic, but all of a sudden my, 60, 70 hour a week job was down to like 10 to 20. So I had a lot of free time on my hands, and I just thought, I like to talk about books. Maybe I'll try this out. And I think like most channels, my first few months, I mean, I was really unwatchable, but I'd like to think as I got through it, I got a little bit better at it. And it's really cool now because there are just a lot of viewers that it seems like every video we get to chat about, the different books that I talk about or whatever. And it's been a lot of fun. And I honestly didn't think I'd keep doing it, but I love the interaction. Because I do have friends that read, but I'm sure you have the same thing. It's like, how many friends do you know that are reading the same things that you're reading?
Yeah, no, they don't read the books I read. If they do at all, it's like, Clive Cussler or, some shit that I'm not going to read, which nothing against Clive Cussler. That's like your thing. But I was like, that's not my brand. And they also would look at the horror genre as if it's like, below them, so yeah. I couldn't ever really talk about Stephen King was about the best you could do because, I feel like everyone likes at least one Stephen King story, whether they know it or not. You know, like when people are like surprised when they find out that Shawshank Redemption is a Stephen King story, things like that. So that's about it. But yeah, really, it was like I knew one other person in real life who read the same books as I did, and he was going through medical school, and he wasn't reading very many of them anymore. So it wasn't really. But he's the one who introduced me to Red Rising. He introduced me to Brandon Sanderson. So I'll always be thankful for that because I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that friend, because I was pretty much, I don't want to say I was out of reading fantasy, but I wasn't doing it very much. I was just starting another Stephen King reread where I was going through everything. Yeah. And then he was him getting me into Brandon Sanderson with Mistborn told me say, well, he finished Wheel of Time. Hey, let me read Wheel of Time. And that's kind of, how I got to where I am now. So that's very cool, right?
Well, actually, I got a good tie-in with your Wheel of Time because your channel was actually the first Booktube channel I found.
Oh, no kidding.
And I
Okay.
think it was one of those that my computer saw that. So I had free time. So I started reading finally The Wheel of Time for the first time. I'd never read it. And it was during pandemic. And I think the computer just read that it just picked up that I had ordered on Amazon the latest book. And then all of a sudden, YouTube showed me your video, why you should read The Wheel of Time. And I said, hey,
Mm.
I'm reading it now. And that's where it kind of started for me watching BookTube. And it was interesting. I was watching one of your videos where you mentioned Daniel Green. I'm like, who's that?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I found your channel first and then his and some others after that. But yeah, it was the Wheel of Time for me. Actually, I wasn't reading a lot of fantasy either. I took a big break from probably around 2000 until, 2018. The only new stuff I think I read in that time was A Song of Ice and Fire and the Harry Potter books. I think
Mhm.
that's all the new stuff I read. So it's actually been a lot of fun just catching up because there's all these completed series and these authors I never read before, Abercrombie, Hobb, Wheel of Time, Sanderson. So it's been a lot of fun catching up on that genre for sure.
You talk about your first videos, man. I hate. It's like I love that people still enjoy those Wheel of Time videos. I do, but I'm just like I hate that that's some people's first impression of the channel because I will still to this
Yeah.
day get comments on there that say stuff like "Get a better camera, bro," and I'm like watching
Yeah.
your video, bro. It's like 4 years old, But what Philip's saying here, I was very watchable during my first videos, the same way a car accident is watchable. I
Right.
am actually jealous of a lot of these new booktubers. I think like their lighting and their sound is perfect from video
Right.
one. It's like I've been doing this 4 years and I can't get this shit perfect. So it's amazing. Some people just have like really, really great recording space. I've got a spare bedroom. It's almost impossible to do perfect lighting in here.
Yeah.
So that's just the way when you have young kids. But it's just one of those things where it was a happy accident for me. So I wasn't
Yeah.
really prepared to deal with having people actually watch the stuff that I did because I've been podcasting for years, and a handful of people listened, but it was nothing on
Yeah.
this scale. But
Yeah.
hey, we always got to be getting better, right?
Yeah, for sure. But you're right. The audio and the video, the lighting is the hardest part of it.
It's a
For
nightmare.
sure.
It's a nightmare. People
That
all the
takes
time,
long to shoot.
and
you know?
everyone's like, "Oh, just get a ring light." Nope, that ain't it. Sorry, that doesn't work for
Yeah.
me. No. So I've got it pretty much when I'm recording an actual video, but when I do a stream because I put them in front of the computer monitors, it's impossible. And that's why I get this dead eye. Look, I've already got that problem, guys. I'm 45. I got the baggage under the eyes. I got 2 young kids. It's going to happen. It happens to the best of us. Hey, before we get into King, there's a couple of smaller things. Smaller. It feels really weird to say that about Ken Follett. But I was talking about Kingsbridge recently, and I know
Oh,
you've
yeah.
read them, right? You've read all the Kingsbridge books?
All but the one that was released last month. I haven't
Okay.
read
Are you
Armored
planning
Light
are you
yet.
planning to read it?
I will. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that was really gonna be my big question is I never until I started this channel, honestly, I never knew that was a series. I read Pillars of the Earth because we were studying how they built cathedrals and stuff in literature class, and the professor. I was in advanced English in high school. I was in dummy math, which is funny because I'm working finance now. But I was in dummy math, but I was in the advanced literature and history. It's weird how
Right.
the sides of the brain work, I guess. But we called him professor because he basically used to be a college professor. It's basically you're taking college courses in high school. And he was like, "Hey, if you guys got spare time, you really want to know more about this, I really recommend this book, Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett." I saw it. I'm like, spare time, books like
Yeah.
this. But 1996, I'm 16 years old. And this book, I was just completely just blown away because you hear, "Oh, this book's just about them building a church." And you're like, how interesting could that be? It's one of the best books I've ever
Yeah.
read. And so I never really went back to it because I thought I'd read it once. And then when I talked about my best, I think I said like my best standalone or something, I was like, that's not a standalone. It's part of a series. Had no idea. Had
Yeah.
no idea. So I thought, okay, well, I'd like to get into that. A lot of people in my Discord, a lot of my patrons are reading Pillars of the Earth for the first time, even though I've been begging them for 3 years to read it. They're finally doing it. They're
Yeah.
finally doing it. They're like, wow, this book's amazing. I'm like, I know. And I was like, well, damn, I kind of want to read all these sequel books now that everybody else is going to be doing them. And I was like, but it's been so long since I read Pillars. I was like, I actually wouldn't mind reading that one again, even though I know they're standalone. You don't really have to. But then a lot of people also say, I don't know, if you read them in publication order, there's all these little Easter eggs. I was like, but you guys just told me I didn't have to reread Pillars of the Earth. So I don't mind. I don't mind. Again, it's been 20 plus years. I wouldn't mind rereading it. But I was like, where should I start with it? But my bigger question was, do you think the sequels are worth it? And if there's a 5th book coming out and you're saying you're going to read it, I'm guessing you're going to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only one that wasn't a 5-star read for me was A Column of Fire, because that one, there's a very famous historical figure that comes into the play, and it kind of took me out of the story a little bit. But I mean, they're magnificent. World Without End is the first direct sequel, and I won't say it's as good as Pillars, but it's awfully close. And I really enjoyed
close. That's good enough. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all great. They're pretty remarkable. But they're more like, they really are standalones, but there are Easter eggs. It's kind of like the way the Cosmere used to be.
Used to be before he went all in.
Yeah, before it was gloves off, which I'm not a fan of. But anyway, I shouldn't say that in public.
No, let's talk about that, because I've been kind of annoyed that I liked it when it was Easter eggs. Now it has turned into the MCU plus Disney Plus, where you've got to watch all the TV shows to make sense of the movies. Yeah, no one wants to do that, Brandon. No one wants to do that. So
yeah, I don't know. I think Sanderson super fans do, but
okay, I did take that back. I don't want to say no one, because probably most Sanderson fans do want to do that. Okay, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to read every single one of your books in publication order.
Yeah,
so I don't want to. Oh, you didn't read Lost Metal? You're not going to understand Stormlight #4. I'm like, what? Why? Yeah, I don't.
I when I did my review of Lost Metal, I said that the thing that I really struggled with is I was expecting Wax and Wayne Part 4, not Cosmere Book 1.
Yeah.
And it's like I wanted the end of the Wax and Wayne story, and it got there, but there's like a 250-page tangent in the middle where it's just all about all the Cosmere stuff thrown together. And the thing I said it hasn't happened yet, but I fear that at some point Sanderson's going to be so excited about the Cosmere stuff that he's just going to lose me as a reader, because he's just kind of like the MCU, where once we had the Avengers, every movie felt like an Avengers movie. It didn't feel like a Captain America movie or a Thor movie. It was just another Avengers movie.
Yeah, like Captain America 3, and I was like, this is just Avengers 2.5. I mean, I get that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. I still have hopes. I mean, the guy's very consistent, but I just hope that, I don't know, the other flaw I've always had with Sanderson is he sometimes just gets really excited about certain aspects of his work that maybe I'm not as excited about, like his magic system. You know, he tends to continually explain it to you because he finds it so cool. And I'm always like, Brandon,
I think his magic systems are genius, but it has made me realize more and more that I love soft magic systems. I don't need all this. I don't need all this breakdown of what I grew up reading Lord of the Rings. Gandalf can do magic because he's a wizard. Good enough for me. I agree.
And I loved it in Mistborn, but I felt kind of in the last Stormlight books where it was like, okay, you explained it to me like 30 times. I don't need to hear it the 31st time. And it's just, he's so excited about it. He wants to keep explaining it, but I don't know. It makes it a little tedious, but
I remember when I first started reading Mistborn, whenever they were doing this stuff, they were talking about that. I was looking at the elemental chart and all that stuff at the beginning, and I was like really into it. And then after about like the 5th or 6th fight, I was like, you know what? They're fighting. That's cool. That's cool. I don't need to know what combinations they're doing with these two metals and stuff. It's cool that you can do that if you want to, you know. Whereas I thought Rhythm of War was like, I feel like I'm in class right now, man. This is not what I signed up for with Stormlight Archive. But I mean, again, I love Brandon Sanderson, guys. I don't need this magic explained to me. That's a me thing. I'm just a very, very much a soft magic guy, and I think he's great at it.
I agree. Love it. No, I agree 100% with that. I do enjoy Sanderson. He's so consistently good, and he's a plotter, so he always knows where he's going, and he always seems to go someplace really cool. But yeah, the Stormlight experiments in the 4th book, it was just like, oh man, I feel like I'm reading a textbook.
Yeah. Brian, this same way, which says he just subbed your channel, thought he already was. His whole YouTube list is now Booktubers. I had to create a second YouTube channel just for my subscription to like sports stuff, because I'm a big sports fan. Because I was like, my algorithm was all sports and Booktube stuff. And I was like, all right, I can't do this anymore.
I got a segment.
So it was just like, it's just too much. So I had to, so I'm the same way. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I used to listen to a lot more podcasts, and now I'm just trying to catch up on everybody's Booktube stuff. You know,
my watch later queue is just like, it's in the hundreds. It's
like some people I know they'll probably get like 4 or 5 notifications from me that I comment on stuff, because I'm like just catching up on everything, you know. So that's just the way that it works. So Kingsbridge, I think I will probably go ahead and start with Pillars again because you know, I'd like to read that one again because it's great and
It's
it'll kind of get
remarkable.
me in that mood. And I'm glad to hear that those sequel books are really really good. You know, you were one of the first who told me to read Lonesome Dove, and you're right about that.
Yeah, well, I
Hard
think both of us, that's probably both of our best book of the year right now because I read
Yeah,
that January 1st.
yeah,
Well,
it was in
started.
April. Yeah, it's so damn good. And the thing is, like everyone who after I reviewed it that read it after that was just like, man, you're right. I mean, a lot of people are like, I went into it with my expectations sky high after review, and damn if it didn't exceed them. Like it's just that good. So
Yeah, it
well, it's
really is.
universal.
Yeah, yeah, and Pillars is similar. I mean, I hear very few people not say that they loved it. So, yeah, I think you'll agree with your 16-year-old self.
Yeah, yeah, most likely. You know, the big one I've got coming up because every year I'm going to try to do one of these big tomes I've been putting off for a long time. And I think this coming year, I'm going to be doing Shogun. And I know you did review Shogun, and I
Yeah.
believe it was quite a positive review. Yes. Was that your first time
Oh,
reading
yeah.
it?
That was, and it blew me away. That's both of those books are probably top 10 books of all time for me. I really love Shogun, and I've read more by Clavel. I read Taipan earlier this year, and Alan and Kyle and I are going to read the next one, Guy Jin, at some point. But yeah, Clavel is remarkable as well, and I really liked that one. That one's really interesting because it feels almost like a work of fantasy because it's 1600 and
Mhm.
when the main character is shipwrecked in Japan and Japanese are speaking to him in Japanese, it feels like a different world.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable. It's one of those just epic length historical works that I really loved it.
Well, if it's anything like I watched the miniseries, the one from like 1980, and I loved it. I mean, I like got to the point where I was just like anything that was like Japanese culture. I was like, "Gimme, I want to read that. That sounds really, really awesome." And that's what made me want to read Sword of Kaigen was watching Shogun because I knew I was going to plan to. I wanted to plan to read it next year because there's some people that said they were going to read it with me, but they do have a new adaptation for it coming out on FX next year. And I said, okay, I want to make sure I read it before then because what
Yeah.
I can't think of the actor's name, but he's like so great, and he's going to be playing the one that I see. I can't remember the characters' names. I watched them. It's like 9 hours long. I can't remember the characters' names. Whatever the main lord that he's serving under
Mal
in Shogun.
Toranaga.
Yeah, and the guy that's playing him, that actor, I love him to death. So I'm just like, I usually like cringe whenever a new adaptation's coming out, but
Yeah.
you know, I got some hope because I was listening to the showrunner and he's like really, really just loves the book. And that's usually that's the first step. You know, at least it's not one of those like, well, I've never actually read it. I just wanted to get paid. You know, that's usually the one's like, uh-oh, you know, but yeah, Shogun, what a great story. So I've heard it's a very faithful adaptation. So I'm planning to enjoy
I
that
hope
book
so.
very, very much. So I can't wait to do it, even though if it does take, probably will take me like, I don't know. I said Lonesome Dove would take me like 3 months and it took me like 10 days and that's a
Yeah.
tome too, you know, it's just that good. So hoping
Yeah.
to have a similar experience.
I think so. I mean, Shogun, I read it. Well, actually, I read it. I had COVID, so I read it in like 6 days because I was just stuck on the couch. But yeah, it's so remarkable. Yeah, I think you'll love it.
Shogun and Taipan are very good, not heavy, just stuffy.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't say they're heavy. I think both of them. I think both authors are good at plotting. I mean, especially with Follett. I mean, he cut his teeth as a thriller writer, and he just applies that to his historical fiction. So it's remarkable how well those books read despite their length.
Yes, lots of Pillars of the Earth love down below. I'm glad to see it. I'm not saying that
Absolutely.
it's not that popular of a book. I'm just saying with my audience, a lot of people had never read
Yeah.
it. And what is it about? And I tell them, oh, it's about them building this church. And they're like, I'm out. I'm like, just trust me. It's incredible. It's incredible. So
I haven't done my top 10 favorite books of all time, but it's
just
a
missed it.
contender.
Just missed it on my top 10 books. Just missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a contender for the top choice for sure.
Here's one. Do either of you have hopes that the new Salem's Lot adaptation will ever see the light of day? Is that weird that it's actually been filmed and they canned it?
I hadn't heard that really.
Yeah. It's actually been filmed. It was supposed to come out this Halloween, and like back in like May or June, Warner Brothers just canned it. No idea what's going on. I don't know if that means it was just terrible
Wow.
or it's just Warner Brothers being Warner Brothers. I have no idea.
I would think if they could make money on it, they'd release it. So it must be really bad.
Well, I mean, I still think that, I mean, even though it's kind of been downhill a little bit since, but even though the new It adaptations did get kind of like that third Stephen King renaissance. You know, they were trying to make a ton, but then they made that awful Pet Sematary and it kind of lost all its steam. So I feel like King's hot right now. So I feel like you could release it. It's really, really weird that they finished filming it. And I don't know. And but God, what's that? William Sadler plays Father Callahan. I think that's an amazing pick.
Oh,
amazing pick. You know, because William Sadler's in several Stephen King adaptations. And I think that would be great. But I mean, everything I saw about it looked pretty cool. But just really.
Wow, I hadn't realized that it wasn't coming out.
Yeah, James Wan was involved with it too. So I don't know what's going on there. So
wow,
Warner Brothers, they're weird. So hey, Stephen King, I want to know your origin story here. How did you become such a big Stephen King fan? You know, pretty much on par with me here. I mean, did you start really, really young? Was it something like, you know, later in life and you just burned through it? How did it really all begin for you?
No, I was young. I was 13 or 14, and I was already a huge reader, and my grandmother loved Stephen King. And it's funny, the first one I read was Thinner by Richard Bachman.
Nice.
She handed me that one. Maybe because it was shorter, I guess. I don't know. And she thought I'd like it. And I loved it. And I read a lot of them through high school. And then it seemed like, you know, college, we don't have as much time to read. But when I was reading in the summer, it seemed like all I was doing was reading Stephen King all through college and just getting caught up. And then at some point I realized, I've read like 2/3 of them. So I realized I had to read all of them, and finally got there about a year and a half ago, and maybe a year ago, whenever that was. But so I've read him forever. And I know, like, my top 10 list, that there's a lot of the big ones that people talk about on their top 10 that's not on mine. And it's only because I read them so long ago that I don't remember. Like Pet Sematary being one of them.
Yeah. So I'm doing ranking them, but I'm like, a lot of these I got to reread, guys. I read them when I was like 16 years old, and they're different. You know, they're different. I don't want to judge them off of, you know, memories from 25 years ago. Yeah. So I'm rereading them slowly. But I'm a Dreamcatcher in that part of Dark Tower I don't want to reread, so I've kind of slowed down. You know, I was a waiter. For Dark Tower. So did you get to binge them? Did you start reading it when it was done?
No, I read them. I think I read Wastelands when it came out. So I was reading all of them as they came out. And it wasn't quite like our George R.R. Martin wait.
Right. Oh,
It was one of those. I think I even just kind of forgot that he was going to do the series until we got to until Wolves of the Kala came out. Like, oh yeah, he never finished that series. I guess it had been so long. So maybe it was as long, but maybe not quite as anticipated, I guess. I don't know.
You know, Christopher, I heard this from Sarah. Her and her dad like bond over Stephen King. You guys got great parents. You know what my parents said when it came to Stephen King? I don't want that satanic stuff in my house. You know, I grew up strictly religious household, and I had to keep it a secret that I was reading it.
Wow.
Can you imagine what it's like trying to hide a mass market paperback that's this thick every single day? Yeah, it was not fun. And it's seriously, all these other kids my age were like hiding drugs from their parents, and I'm hiding rock records and Stephen King novels, you know? So.
Yeah. No, I was hiding my heavy metal records too.
Oh yeah, man. We did like, it was so funny is my brother and I, we used to hide like Iron Maiden and Ozzy Osbourne records and like Beach Boy vinyl covers. Yeah, vinyl, guys. We're talking that old. Yeah. And that movie Detroit Rock City came out, and they had hide the Kiss records inside like Peter, Paul, and Mary or something like that. And her mom puts it out and starts playing it. It's Kiss. I was scared. I was like, wow, I'm surprised that never happened to us, because we used to do the same thing. So all the stuff that I'm like, and that's why I'm like, I know my kids are hiding stuff from me. I don't even know. Thank you, Corey. Booktube has opened my eyes to so many new books. Well, I hope some of them are really, really memorable for you, because I know that as much great stuff I feel like I've learned off recommendations. I won't lie. There's been some things I'm like, I don't know why people recommended that to me. You had any big misses yet like that, where your audience swears you're going to love something and then you read it and you're like, not so much?
No, but I've read some based off of recommendations, not like personal, that people said you're going to love this, but I've read a few here and there where it's been like, yeah, that's really not my thing. Actually, we have one in common, the Will White series.
That was the main one to talk about. The people bought me the whole series. I felt just terrible because they bought me the whole series.
I DNF'd the first book. I couldn't take it. It just
I
wasn't.
quit midway through 2. I was like, "This, no,
Yeah,
you're trying to do a prison break, and someone's telling you to stop and fight so you can get to the next level." And I'm like,
wasn't my thing. I mean,
"No, that's not for me."
I'm still waiting for Dresden to get good, but I've only read 2 of those, so I know that
Oh,
it's
okay.
just
Well,
early.
I can tell you it does, but I'm sure you've heard it. Hey, bro, just wait
Yeah,
till you get the changes. You
yeah,
heard that
right?
yet?
Gotta read 10 books till it gets good, but no,
Dude,
I've been told it gets
I
good,
did
but
my video years ago about why I decided to read Dresden Files, and like the first like 5 comments were like, "Dude, wait till you get the changes." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll wait till I get to book 12. I haven't
yeah,
even read 1 yet."
crazy.
And that's the other thing right here. Cradle gets good at book 7. It's people
Oh,
say
that's funny.
I was like, usually we say like it's like when you used to tell friends, oh, wait till like season 3 of this show. That's when it gets really, really awesome. That's like the equivalent.
Yeah.
Like when I was reading Malazan, and everyone's like, oh, well, it gets really good at book 6. I'm like, 6, you know. So hey, Malazan, you've got a really, really good take on Malazan. How do you feel about Malazan, Josh?
Okay, well, probably the video that I lost the most subscribers this year was my reading vlog for Memories of Ice, where I DNF'd. I looking back, I'm going to try again, but I DNF'd. It was easily the busiest month of the year for me and the busiest week. And I'm getting home at like 9:30 p.m. and I'm trying to read Memories of Ice. And you know how dense that
Oh yeah.
series is. And it was such a chore. And my video, every vlog, you could tell I was just getting more frustrated, more frustrated. And then finally I DNF'd, but I will give it another shot at some point. I don't know when that's going to be, maybe next year, but yeah, it's a shame though, because I liked the first 2 books. I really loved Deadhouse Gates, which surprised me because I'm not a huge military fantasy fan,
Yeah, same,
which
but I love Dead House Gates. Yeah.
that book was a lot of it, but man, I loved it. I mean, I think about that book quite a bit. I mean, I think of like Duiker's Arc and Coltane, of course, and I kind of want to see what happens to Fellison going forward. So it's like I want to go back, but man, it's tough. It
Well, all I'll
wasn't. It's
say
not
is
going to
that
be one of
Memories of
those.
Ice is routinely the first or second favorite for people that read those books. If I was like, if you aren't
I
enjoying it
know.
right now, man,
Yeah.
whoo, I can't
No,
even imagine what would happen to you in Toll the Hounds. Oh
yeah.
man,
No, you told me that when I
not
finished.
Toll the
You're
Hounds.
like, that's one of the good ones.
House of Chains. House of Chains. I've been reading Toll the Hounds for like 4 months now, and I'm on like page
Yeah.
400.
No, I have a feeling I'll be back and I'll finish it like 10 years from now. I think it's going to be one of those I might read 1 a year, you know, when I
It's
know
starting
I
to
have
become a
time.
tradition whenever I have a live stream on this channel that I have to verbally thrash Jared here. One of the smartest guys I know, but he makes some really, really bad decisions, like only reading a little bit of Stephen King
Mm.
and quitting on Dresden Files and things like that. But it's okay. We appreciate Jared anyway. But he's saying
granted,
that where is he said he's got a Wheel of Time take too. This is why Wheel of Time is the best. Starts great, stays great, never gets bad. I don't know about that, Jared.
Crossroads of Twilight, like easily one of the
Here we
worst
go.
fantasy books I've ever read.
What about this? And that's the other thing. Like when Dresden Files fans are always like, "Wait till you get the changes, dude." Wheel of Time fans, hey, I'm going to read Wheel of Time. Oh man, it's an amazing series, maybe the best ever. But book 7 through 10 suck. I'm like, you're not instilling me with a ton of confidence here, you know?
Yeah, right.
Oh well, hey, I'm glad that you enjoyed it the whole way through. Hey, did you like Holly? Did you finish Holly?
Yeah, I finished it. I was pretty lukewarm on it. I think I gave it a 3.5 star.
Someone told me that it's about on par with like Billy Summers,
Yeah, I'd say Billy Summers is a little better.
where you don't regret reading it, but it's nothing you'd ever think about an hour after
Yeah,
you finish
exactly.
it.
It's just, I don't know. My biggest question is, why is King embracing a genre that's not his, doesn't play to his
I
strength?
don't know. I mean, I loved Later. I was like, man, that's like one of the
Mhm.
spookiest books he's wrote in a long time. Even though I thought Fairy Tale kind of fell off a bit, I was like, I liked him being more creative. But I was like, I think he really got into those Michael Connelly Bosch books, and he
Yeah.
just said, I want to do this, and he just keeps writing like these detective crime novels, and I'm just like,
But the problem is those crime writers like Connolly, I mean, he's a top 5 for me. They're great plotters, and
mm,
King is not a plotter. And you
mm.
have to be a great plotter to write great crime fiction. And it doesn't embrace his strengths. I mean, his strengths are character and tone and atmosphere and those kinds of things. And plotting is not his strength. So it was disappointing, unfortunately.
Holly's only marginally better because the main character doesn't play Monopoly for 40 pages. Well, there's where he does excel at the slice of life, and that's why I don't think that really fits that genre. Now, look, I haven't read very many crime novels at all, especially if they aren't Stephen King, really. So I'm not the one to really say, if that's something that really works in that genre. But I always kind of looked at it as like a connect the dots, cat and mouse kind of thing. Follow the clues, and there's not a lot of downtime of playing Monopoly.
I mean, I went through a big phase of reading a lot of crime fiction, and I still read like Connolly and Dennis Lehane and a few others, but I mean, most of it is usually fast paced, but it can be slow paced if it's still well plotted. And yeah, I've yet to read a crime novel that slice of life works, because all it does is it really just slows down kind of the point of the novel, which is to find out, who the bad guy is or whatever the mystery is. And yeah.
Yeah, there's a crime channel on my Discord, and those people, I mean, they talk about them constantly, but Connolly is the one that always comes up. Where if I said I was going to read some crime novels, it probably would be the Bosch, because I like the Bosch TV show. So
Yeah.
I'm sure I could probably enjoy those books. It's just a genre I never really got into. I don't know. It's weird because I said I love Western movies, but I was never really interested in reading them. Now, all of us say Lonesome Dove, which is probably the greatest one ever. Has he been like, well, maybe I'll try that genre some more. And I'm like, well, it's kind of setting the bar kind of high though with Lonesome Dove, right? So,
yeah, that's the one to read for sure.
Do you know of any book or book series that follows the same POV and chapter structure as A Song of Ice and Fire? I feel like everything's kind of copied it now. First Law does it. Red Rising by Pierce Brown does it. I mean, a lot of them do that now. Just, you take your 5 main POV characters and just put them all in different places of the world, and they eventually cross over and then go their own ways, kind of thing. I feel like everyone was copying A Song of Ice and Fire there for a minute, right?
Yeah, I mean, imitation's the greatest form of flattery. So I think they all wanted to be like that.
I'll agree with this one. Dragon Tattoo, Pete Cryfish. I love that first book. Second one, not so much, but that first book, I was guessing the entire way, and I was wrong. It was such a good twist, man. I loved it.
I liked the whole trilogy. I think the third one was the weakest, but those are fantastic.
What I didn't like about the second one is that you took Blomkvist and Lisbeth and you separated them. I liked them working together, man. And you separated them. I was like, that was my favorite dynamic, was those two working together, because it was so just like two different sides of the world, and they were working together. I love stuff like that. And in the second book kind of took that away. And it was a little bit more of a, detective kind of story, putting clues together. And it had a satisfying, story the way it wrapped up. But
the ending of that was great. Yeah, I love the ending of that one.
Yeah, Elizabeth's great. Great character. Really, really is. So Rift War, I know, is a series you like a lot as well, correct? Feist?
Yeah, I've been rereading gradually because so I mentioned I took a break reading fantasy. I took a break reading new fantasy. I was still rereading throughout the years, like a lot of the stuff I read in the 80s and 90s, that kind of thing. And I just recently, I wanted to read more of the Rift War saga, basically because I saw that Feist put out a book called Magician's End. And I just said, oh, I need to know the whole story. And then, of course, I researched, and it's like 30 books or something like that. So I reread Rift War, and I really enjoyed it. And I just read, Alan was doing a read along of the Empire trilogy on his channel. And I loved that one that he co-wrote with Janie Wirtz. So, and then I had a viewer buy me the Serpent War saga, which is the next one. So I'll eventually get through all of them. But it's interesting, when I was reading fantasy in the 80s and 90s, Rift War wasn't my favorite of them all. I mean, probably like Belgariad was my favorite, maybe Dragonlance. But in rereading them, I think it has the most, at least the most potential to be kind of a longer term favorite. So yeah, I do enjoy them.
No, I was going to say that that's one of those I've been kicking down the road for a while. I got Magician. I got that. Is it just a Rift War saga? Whichever one is just the trilogy. I mean, whenever I say Rift War, people think I mean like all like 50 books. I'm like, no, just those three. Just those three.
Yeah,
so
the three is the saga. The cycle is the
cycle's overall or
whatever.
So I was going to say I'm going to start putting together my my new series I'm going to start next year, and I was going to give you the opportunity to tell me why one of them should be Rift War, if you can do that.
So one thing that you will like is in the first book, you get not just a coming of age tale, but you get 3 of them. And
nice.
it's really interesting. You get the would-be magician, you get the would-be soldier, and the would-be kind of nobleman, and you get to see their growth throughout the series. And I think that was something I really enjoyed a lot more, I think, as an adult, and didn't appreciate it as much as a kid, where maybe I just wanted to follow like one character. So that aspect of it I really liked. The other thing I really like about the trilogy is all three books work very well self-contained. I think there's kind of a trend or just a common thing that some authors nowadays tend to just tell one story broken up into three parts. And I love the fact that each book kind of functions on its own. There's a little time jump between each of them, and they each, function very well as standalones, even though it's part of a series. So I think those things work really, really well for me.
I like the whole, like, I don't want to say like fish out of water kind of thing, but kind of like thrown in the fires. I believe it's like he's a apprentice, and then there's like an invasion. You got to kind of like learn on the fly kind of thing. I love that kind of storyline. So
yeah, and there's the rift. So there's this other world and this other culture, which frankly was explored a lot deeper in the Empire trilogy. But even so, you get to see a good amount of it, especially in that first book in Magician. And that's just interesting too, having like this rip through space time in the middle of this fantasy series. There's a couple battle scenes that are in the trilogy that are some of my most memorable as well too. So there's a lot to like. I mean, it's not Abercrombie standards or something like that, but it's still, I think it was worth my time and rereading them this year for sure.
All right. Talking Story brings up Hap and Leonard series by Joe Lansdale.
Oh, Lansdale's great. Yeah,
I want to talk about that. I actually met Joe Lansdale before I even really knew who he was. Met at his son's wedding. My wife was one of the bridesmaids, and I got sat at the table with him because she was in the wedding. And they, you got that one extra where you have one empty seat because she was in the wedding party and I wasn't. So I ended up sitting next to him. We talked about Bubba Hotep the whole time because he wrote that movie. And I'm a big Elvis fan. I'm a big Elvis fan. I just loved his take on it. And he basically told me stories about Bruce Campbell the whole time. It was great. Yeah, really.
That's amazing.
I've never actually read any of his books, but I have met him. He's a really awesome guy.
No, wow, I didn't know he wrote Bubba Hotep.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Well, the thing was, like, before we were going there, my wife was saying, yeah, his dad like wrote that movie that you were talking about, Bubba Hotep. I was like, no shit. I was like, wow, cool. Didn't even really know he was an author until like after the fact. So I kind of missed that whole thing. But yeah, he's from around here. Someone was bringing up L.E. Modasit. I've had the first couple of Saga of Recluse books since I was a preteen. Yeah. And I've never read them, but I've always been interested. Yeah. I've heard it's very much like the, I don't want to say the Walmart Wheel of Time. It's just like, it was kind of one of those things where people were reading either Wheel of Time or that for a long time because they both had like a book coming out every year kind of thing. That or Shannara. People that kind of tapped out in Shannara were reading like Saga of Recluse, but I never have. But I think they're still going. He's still going.
No, I haven't read those either. I've seen the covers. That's about it.
Wait a second. You may have your Texas citizenship revoked if you don't read some Lansdale. Maybe. I mean, sheesh, there's probably a lot of authors from around here I haven't actually read yet. Texas is a big, big state, isn't it? Yeah. We're finally like not 185 degrees outside lately. We've walked like every night this week, man. It's been great.
Yeah, it's
like that where you're at.
Yeah, it's been horrible. Yeah, I'm up the road in Austin, so I mean, we have similar crappy weather. It's been like 100 degrees for like 4 months, it seems like. So it's been nice the last few mornings. It's been 50 degrees to be able to go for a run.
I had to put the kids in pants this morning. They were not impressed. They love to wear shorts. But the Daryl K. Sweet does those Saga Recluse covers, so they kind of look like the Wheel of Time covers a little bit. But I've always been curious. Like I said, I have those old paperbacks. They're yellowed at this point. They're so old, But another one I wanted to ask you about, now that Derry's here. Hi, Derry. I saw you in the comments somewhere. We haven't talked about Realm of the Elderlings yet, but before we get there, Ender Saga. You read the whole thing finally, right? You read all of Ender Saga?
Yeah. Yep.
Should I go ahead? Because I've only read Ender's Game is one of my favorite sci-fi, like my second favorite sci-fi book behind only Dune. I love it. I think it's an amazing, amazing book. I think there's so many great lessons in there about leadership, teamwork, all kinds of things that you can apply. Like I said, they still talk about this book in business school, and it's incredible. Always been scared to read the sequels because they have such divided opinions on it. So which side did you land on?
Yes and no. So you have the Ender's books. There's like 4 of those, and then there's 4 Shadow series, and then there's 3 that he wrote at the end that kind of ties it all together. The 3 at the end, in my opinion, are trash. I think those ones are bad. The Ender's series, Speaker for the Dead, is great. My issue with the rest of the Ender series is he takes a turn in Xeno's side
that's what I hear.
Basically made me just hate the book. I mean, I went from like a 4.5 star read to like a 1.5. Wow. I mean, I just hated the narrative choice he made at the very end of that book. So I have trouble recommending Speaker for the Dead because the story doesn't conclude until a couple books later, and you have to go through this Xenocide and Children of the Mind story, which is bad. But Speaker for the Dead's great. But the Shadow series, it's not Ender's Game. But Ender's Shadow, you get to see Ender's Game from Bean's perspective. So you get to see the story, with maybe an even better coming of age tale. It doesn't have like the thematic depth. It's not a book that's going to be studied in military academies and things like that. But the Shadow series up through the 4th book, Shadow the Giants, Shadow the Giant, I think are fantastic. I really like those. They're more kind of action adventure and less kind of thematic, masterpieces like Ender's Game. But, that's what I usually recommend. I did a video where that was my reading advice, was to read Ender's Game and then to read the first 4 Shadow series books, which it's also probably the lowest like to disliked ratio, because I ruffled a few feathers when I said don't read the rest of the Ender's Game books. But,
I'm seeing a lot of Ender Shadow good Xenocide.
It's good. It's really good. I mean, it's different. It's more action adventure, but Bean is a fantastic character, and you get to know him more and more.
He's kind of a background character in Ender's Game, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's just like that kind of lieutenant in the back, and you get to really learn his story, and it's probably a better coming of age tale, actually. But it doesn't have
that is not an unpopular opinion at all. Go read the comments of my Ender's Game video. There's a lot of people that do not like the book, so it's
interesting.
It's very, very popular. It's sold a ton, but it has a ton more criticism than something like, say, Dune does, where you will still get people who read Dune, they say this is not for me. And as someone who loves Dune, I get that. I perfectly understand why someone would not care for Dune. Well, you got to kind of be in the right place when you read Dune for the first time or the third time, like it was for me. But with Ender's Game, I would say most of the Booktube videos I've seen have been very negative on Ender's Game. Now, a lot of that is to deal with the author, not the book. But I don't do that. I'm like, was the book good? That's just kind of how I am. But it's not an unpopular opinion at all. I'm doing Josh's preferred reading order of Shadows first and loving it. So there you go. It's working for some people.
No, I didn't do Shadow first. I said second, because you read Ender's Game and then Ender's Shadow instead of doing the Speaker for the Dead one, because in-world chronology. Anyway, my video has all kinds of different options, which is interesting. But
well, Nick, that would be because Dune is not a dense and boring classic. It's just a classic. It's incredible. It's very, very. I'm a little biased, but I think Dune is an incredible book.
Yeah.
I think I
agree. I mean,
5 versions of that book now. I think I've 6, maybe 6. I don't know. Yeah, lots of opinions about Ender's Game right now.
We've hit a nerve.
Yeah. So you ranked the first Law books not that long ago.
Yeah.
Do you feel like those rankings have changed, or as you've thought about it a little bit, or did you keep them the same? I probably changed mine now.
I think they're probably the same. I mean, probably some of the ones in the middle move around, but I mean, really, I rank them, but I think my lowest rated Abercrombie book was, it was one of the Shattered Sea. I gave like a 3.5, but like all the first
I didn't even read book 3. Book 2 disappointed me so bad. I didn't even read 3.
Really? See, I like the second book the most.
No, I like book 1 got me really, really attached to those characters. And then you take Tarby, who is an awesome character, and you just make him like there's nothing the rest of the series. And I just didn't like that format. I understood what he was going for. It just wasn't what I wanted. Yeah.
Well, I got to the end of Shattered Sea, and it's not a spoiler, but at the very end of Shattered Sea trilogy, it was one of those, there's a moment and then you realize, oh yeah, this is Abercrombie.
Yeah.
And it does come together.
Yeah.
But no, First Law, I mean, all of them are at least a 4-star for me. Most of them are 5-star reads. So it's coin flip. What am I feeling like? I mean, I ranked Trouble with Peace as my favorite, but I mean, so many of them
Really?
are just remarkable.
I feel like, for a while, I thought that it was going to be weird if anybody said that the sequel trilogy. I seem to be like one of the only ones left who still says the original trilogy is Joe Abercrombie's best work. Everybody seems to go with the Age of Madness now. I'm just like,
My second and third, I think, were both from the original trilogy. Yeah, I like the original trilogy just because, I mean, it's so much Logan and Glocta, and they're
yeah.
like two of
I'm
my
just like, but
favorite
that's my thing is
characters
I
ever.
loved or love to hate every character in that original trilogy. I have some characters I'm kind of like, in the sequels. That's kind of
Yeah.
where I fall on. Those characters just couldn't be replaced for me. That's like saying people ask me, hey, well, do you ever think that they would, even if they made like the most amazing Star Wars movies ever, you would still think the originals were the best because nostalgia? Maybe,
Maybe.
maybe, maybe. Remember, I read First Law, guys. All I had read besides that was A Song of Ice and Fire, really, and Lord of the Rings, so
Yeah.
it's always going to be very, very, very special to me. This is a great name right here, Golem Wat Deeb. I am a fan. Doom Messiah is a favorite of my Doom books. Golem, they just put out that Folio Society of Doom Messiah, and I want it really bad. I just can't pay $150 for a book that's this big. I just
Yeah.
can't. And I just bought those deluxe editions, so I'm just like, do I really need
Yeah.
a third special edition of Doom Messiah? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Well, just, yeah.
No, I have the deluxe editions. That's enough for me. But
See,
yeah,
this
those
is
folios are amazing. I only have one, and it's just beautiful.
Philip. You said Song of Susanna was the best Dark Tower book. You have no power here.
No,
Oh,
I mean, I've heard a lot of people say they like Age of Madness better, but yeah, I don't know. I think I do like the original trilogy better, but
I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but someone did send me.
oh,
This,
I've heard of that one. That's
I was blown away. This is
unbelievable.
oh
Wow.
my god, it's incredible.
Wow.
So yeah, well, I'll be showing that off more.
Yeah,
On
that's a
the
generous viewer.
yeah, I was completely floored when I saw it and immediately made sure I got in touch with them and told them that basically, if you want my wife, it's fine.
Well, I remember when that was released, Abercrombie even tweeted, he was like, I wouldn't even pay this much for my own book.
Yeah, it's when I saw this, how limited it is and it's
Yeah.
signed and it's like I saw that how much they're going for. I was like, oh my god. So
Yeah.
it's I
That's
don't even know
amazing.
what to say when someone sends me something like that. I'm just
Yeah, what do
completely
you say to
floored.
that? I mean,
Yeah,
thank you a lot.
yeah. Thank you very, very much. I started reading the passage because of how high you were on it.
Yeah, yeah.
I stopped about halfway through. You know what part I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I know exactly.
And I said I'd go back to it. I'm just not feeling this urge to go back to it, man. Please tell me I should. Please tell me I should push
I
this.
think you should, because the last line in that book punched me in the stomach.
No kidding.
And the end of the series had me in tears. It's just it's an epic, so he just takes that turn and goes a different direction, and he does that
I
more in
just
the
think
second
maybe if
and
that
third books.
first half of book one wasn't just so damn good,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
man,
yeah.
I
I
couldn't
mean, it
help myself.
definitely
I
changes.
will, but
Yeah, it definitely changes.
mm.
So no, I was a huge fan of that series. I read them as they came out. So
Did you read his new book, Cronin's new book?
I did.
You like
It was very good. It wasn't up to some of his best books, but I really enjoyed it. That's one of those that 2/3 of the way through the book, it takes a really odd turn
another one?
that some people hated, and I really liked it.
Is
It
that
was
book
one of
3?
those where, and no, in the Ferryman, the new one.
Oh, the Ferryman. Okay.
Yeah, he takes a really, it goes, because you think the book is going to do one thing and then all of a sudden it does something different. And a lot of people weren't on board with it, but I was, because at one point I just said, dang it, this guy did it again. He just pulled off conceptually what he was trying to do. So I'm a fan. I even love he wrote a book called The Summer Guest, which I think is one of the best American novels ever. So yeah, he's a great writer.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I bought all 3 of them,
Yeah.
so I feel like I got. It's like I said, I would just DNF it if I thought that like I was never going to get back to it. I don't know. I just was having a hard time connecting to those new characters, and I
Yeah.
think I was just like, quit being a bitch. Just push through, accept it. And I said, I'd go back to it because, I want to make sure I focus on my spooky season stuff, which I'm really behind on. Football season to get you, man. And I've gotten kind of behind. I said, I'll go back in November, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm really excited about it, but yeah. Hey, there is a new First Law short story collection. I haven't got it yet. I didn't know
I haven't.
There isn't a physical release, I don't think. I think it's just on digital. I haven't actually gotten it yet because someone was asking me why I haven't talked about it. I was like, dude, I didn't even know it was coming out. I had no idea. So I
want to say there's only just like a Subterranean Press or somebody like that might have a fancy edition, but yeah, most of it's just Kindle. So yeah, I'll throw it on there and get to it at some point.
Yeah, there's just so much, guys. There's so much. So at what point when you were reading Realm of the Elderlings did you say, I have a new favorite author and it's not Stephen King anymore? At what point? Because I don't think I've reached that point yet in the Realm of the Elderlings.
Well, I gave Hobb my number 2 spot, so King's still in my number 1.
I was teasing. I know for a while there you said you were kind of teetering.
But I was thinking about it. It was really end of Tawny Man and beginning of Fitz and the Fool. The end of Tawny Man blew me away. Well, Fool's Errand and Fool's Fate both blew me away. But I think it was solidified for me in the last trilogy. Seeing Fitz again as an old man. And the story there is just remarkable. Assassin's Fate is probably my favorite fantasy novel. Realm of the Elderlings is my favorite fantasy series. But yeah, for me, I think it was just cumulative. Like I really liked Farseer, and then Live Ship blew me away. Funny Man blew me away. I liked Rain Wild. I mean, that's the one that's the lowest of all of them. But then Fitz and the Fool just drove it home for me.
I don't know. I feel like Fool's Errand. That's the first one, Tawny Man, right? Fool's Errand.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that one broke me because that one was just so damn good, and I don't feel like it's hit those heights again for me. And I've read 6 books after that. Now 4 of them are Rain Wilds, which people have opinions about.
Yeah,
and a lot of those are justified. They really are, but I don't know. It was just something. Golden Fool, I think it just took the wind out of my sails when it was just like a full book of nothing. I love me some slice of life, but it was just like, I don't know. It was just like Fitz being a babysitter.
It
wasn't the story that I wanted.
I mean, it's interesting. People talk about Hobb that way, but I saw a tweet today. Someone was, I don't know which Stephen King book they were reading, but they were like, 300 pages and nothing's gone on.
Well, I love it when King does that.
So it's like, I guess I prefer authors that just take their time. I mean, sometimes I see when someone says something's fast paced, I wonder like, is it going to be too fast paced for me? So I don't know. The older I get to, the more I appreciate people that can just flat out write, and Hobb can just flat out write circles around most people. And I just love her writing style. I just love her use of the language, and I just get lost in what she's reading.
Oh yeah, she's great. I mean, even if I'm complaining about some things in Rain Wilds, I'm still just like, that's a beautiful string of words she just put together right there. I mean, you're never going to lack in that department. But you talk about with Stephen King, like I recommend 11/22/63 to anybody. Really, it's like you don't have to be into horror or any weird Kingisms. It's like this. If you just want a romance story, I really think it is like a romance story wrapped around some time travel. And there'll be people like, I thought it was a really great book, except for that like one part, like for 300 pages in the middle where nothing happens. I'm like, it's my favorite fucking part. I was here just giving more of Jake and Sadie just like hanging out. I loved it. I love that stuff. So, but King is one of the best at it. But I felt like a lot of Live Ship traders, she did that, but she always kind of kept her foot on the gas as far as progressing the storyline. Whereas, I don't know, Golden Fool is something just can't. I don't know. I just wasn't digging it, and I'm starting to be discouraged because I want to have this experience that everybody has with this last trilogy where they're posting pictures of themselves and it looks like they've been punched in the face by Mike Tyson because they're crying so hard. I want to have that experience when I read Assassin's Fate, and I'm worried because I'm starting it next month. I'm starting the book 1 and Fitz and the Fool, me and Philip.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
It's slow paced, all 3 of them, but
I don't think any of her books were fast paced. That isn't the problem.
There's an aspect of Fool's Assassin that I think where something with the narrative shifts, which I think you'll enjoy. I don't want to spoil any of it
Thank you.
beyond
I appreciate
that.
that.
But and that's great. And I thought the ending of the series was beautiful. And I was crushed, and I didn't understand the term book hangover until I read that book. Because honestly, when I finished Assassin's Fate, I said the next day, I said, I think I've reached the pinnacle of literature. I need to stop reading.
Wow.
That's how I felt.
You hear that, Philip? He's setting the bar high over here. You hear that?
That's how I felt with Assassin's Fate. Your mileage may vary. We'll see.
Right. No, Madison, she's one of my best friends, and when she was reading that, I was just so jealous because it's like, God, I want to experience that. Damn it, she was just like tore up over the end of that series. And I was like, that's why I said, fuck it, I'm just gonna go ahead and start Live Ship now, because I had like this way long schedule, like finishing it like 2025, and just based off of her reaction, I was like, all right, well, damn, I gotta speed this up. And so I've just been doing one a month here for almost a whole year.
Yeah.
And see, we're getting there. We're getting there. You have any interest to read these Bound and the Broken books? Have you read anything by Ryan Cahill yet?
I have them all on my Kindle now, because he gave them away the other day for like 99 cents.
Yeah.
No, I had read The Fall, and I was blown away by that. I read that in one sitting, and it was such visceral writing is the way I described it when I talked about it. It was just, you felt like you were there, and I love the world building, and I mean, everybody's just raving about it. So yeah, that may happen. I may start that in December. I'm not sure yet. I have them all on the Kindle, so at some point they'll start.
That's one of those where you'll probably just end up reading all three of them in a row, because it really, I mean, someone's asking a question about War and Ruin. War and Ruin's like massive. It's like Storm of Swords long, and it's amazing. You can't put it down. You don't want it to end. As far as saying how's it end off like a cliffhanger, like there's not all of his storylines are resolved, but I don't feel like his books are like, hey, this character just got stabbed. See you in 20 years? Like George does. I mean, Ryan writes so damn fast. I mean, he's put out one of these books every single year for the last 4 years, So I think that you're not going to have to worry about waiting too long. Me, usually I'm like, hey, I need to detox after a book that big. But if I had book 4 in my hand, I'd read it right now. I mean, that's how good that series is. So But I mean, if you want to feel like, oh, I don't want to be left hanging like George does, I mean, that Ryan will have that book out next year, no doubt. So I say go for it. But I understand people that say, because people like me who've been waiting for, I was reading Song of Ice and Fire since the year 2000. People who've been waiting for Gentleman Bastards. People have been waiting for Patrick Rothfuss. I get it. If you want to wait for the series to be done. I get it.
Well, that's why I haven't started Rothfuss. I haven't read Name of the Wind yet, because I'm waiting. Because one George in my life is enough.
Hey, have you read Sun Eater yet by Mr. Rockio?
I have not, but I bought the Diamond Edition, the Kickstarter. So
that'll be a beautiful edition to read out of.
Yeah, I definitely want to read those. It seems like, just people I talk to, it seems like it may be the perfect sci-fi series for me. So I definitely want to read it. And I know you've talked about his writing style being amazing too. And
I would put him up there with one of the best I've read. And people say, oh, it's because like you're cool. Christopher's just an awesome guy. I wouldn't be sitting here like championing his books if I didn't like them, guys. I'm not going to do that. But I just like, what blew me away whenever I was like, wow, this is like Rothfuss, but he actually writes, right? Prose style. He's like Cahill. He puts out a book every damn year, and he's got a new one coming out early next year, and he's working on the final book in that series right now. So
I was glad that Kickstarter happened, because I just had like an eBay search trying to get Empire of Silence on hardcover.
Not easy.
It was always like $150, and a beat up used copy. I mean, just impossible to find. So I'm definitely looking forward to those. Rockio is definitely probably, now that I read Hyperion this year, those 4 books. So that's probably my next big sci-fi series.
What did you think about Endymion? Because I was so disappointed with Fall that I didn't even start Endymion.
So Hyperion's my favorite of the 4.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
But I liked the Endymion duology better than the Hyperion duology.
Oh, okay.
I would put Fall as my 4th favorites.
Such a letdown, right? I think it's just because book 1 was so amazing.
Yeah, and it was just so different, and I just felt like the steampunk throw all the jargon at you, sci-fi jargon, just kind of lost me at times.
No, what lost me was like, guys, imagine you loved Star Wars when you saw it in the 70s, right? And you were so excited to go see The Empire Strikes Back. But instead of showing you Han, Luke, and Leia, we're going to put it from the point of view of some rando Mon Mothma in the Senate, and maybe some fever dreams from C-3PO. That was Fall of Hyperion. I was like, what the? Yeah. I still don't even understand what happened with the strike. I still don't understand.
Well, you don't get that till the fourth book, really.
Well, I mean, it's encouraging to say it is actually worth going back to. I've been such a love-hate with Dan Simmons. I think Hyperion is amazing. I love the Terror. I didn't finish Summer of Nights. There was one other that I read, and it wasn't really for me, I don't think. So I was like, I don't know. I feel like he's a very talented writer. I don't know. I'm still going to do Carrion Comfort, but maybe now I'll think about doing Endymion.
I don't know. The thing I liked most about the 4 books is how different they were. Because, Hyperion is just a literary masterpiece. Fall of Hyperion was kind of like this steampunk thing. Endymion's kind of like an action adventure cat and mouse chase. It's kind of like a quest. And then Rise of Endymion is kind of philosophical at times. And I don't know. I really enjoyed the series a lot. It's probably my favorite sci-fi series that I've read, really.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Just finished Ashes of Man yesterday. I cried my eyes out, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. Yes, I'll go ahead and let you know that, Josh. Rockio is a killer. Okay. Rockio will mess you up.
I'll like him then, if he's like Hobb does the same. So
everyone wants me to acknowledge that the Rangers are beating the Astros. Yes, guys, you guys are playing fucking awesome. What do you want me to say? Here's the thing is I don't talk a lot of mess about sports. I root for my teams. I don't really gloat or anything like that. I did a little bit last year just because I had to listen to Mariners fans all year talk about how they were going to end me. And then they didn't. So I'm more of a results guy. So I'm not like everybody else, guys. I tip my hat when another team is beating mine. So hey, you guys are playing awesome. You deserve it. You're getting all.
Hey, having lived in Dallas for 15 years, I want nothing with the Rangers winning. So
okay. I see a lot of it in the comments. People want me to acknowledge it. Yes, they're winning. They deserve it. I'm not salty about it. It means I'd rather it be them than the Yankees, so there we go.
Yeah, sure.
Oh no, Andrew's here. Hang on. Here. That's from Andrew.
Hey man.
Hey Andrew, did you DNF a book today? Let me know. Let me know, homie. Yeah.
Classic.
Andrew's a good guy. He's just easy to be to pick on.
Andrew, you did make me feel old with the comment on my video today where I did that Stephen King tag where it's you have to say if there was there a book written the year you were born, and I was born the year of Carrie, and he was born in the Stand reissue.
Oh man. Yeah, when I talk about I'll be talking about when I'll never ever be able to replicate that experience in the theater of when I saw Fellowship of the Ring in the theater, and I was crying because it just was so much more than I ever expected it could have been. And someone was like, "Oh yeah, I loved it too. I was in second grade." And I was like, "I was older. I was older."
Right?
So I mean, just one of those things. Yeah. So Andrew says that Rockio is better than Hobb.
Well, that would be amazing.
Andrew very famously quit the series during Fits and Fool. I think maybe he's one of the ones who's got me shook. Maybe that's
he's a fan of the first 9, but not the last 7. So, which I don't know if that's common or uncommon. I don't know. I think it's remarkable how it ends, but
I don't understand that. I understand apparently Terry Brooks was not a very likable person. Not Terry Brooks. Is it Terry Brooks that does sort of
very good kind?
Good kind. No, Terry Brooks is Shannara. No, Terry Brooks is a great guy. Yeah. Apparently, Terry Goodkind is not a very likable guy. I guess. I don't know. I don't dig too deep into these people's personal lives because I don't want them to deter me from reading it because I do like to keep it about the book. I can separate the author from the art. A lot of people can't. And I respect that. That's something you cannot do. I get it, but I've never read. I read a Sword of Truth book when I was younger. Didn't even realize it was book 3 or 4 or something in that series. Yeah. I don't remember anything about it. I was very young. That was just after Lord of the Rings. I just wanted anything that was fantasy. I would pick up and read. I remember when I first read The Sword of Shannara, and as I'm reading, my brother's like, "Does this sound familiar to you?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "It's just Lord of the Rings with different names." I was like, "Yeah, but I think I just wanted that." I wanted more Lord of the Rings, so I was okay with it. Now in hindsight, I'm like, yeah. So I don't know. I don't have anything against Jerry Goodkind. I don't have any plans to read him right now. But one of my patrons, Caitlin, she swears by him. She actually sent me, I think, the first book and wants me to read it. So
I mean, I see him on the shelves all the time when I'm in a bookstore. So obviously somebody is still reading him and still enjoying him. So there's got to be something there. But I've never read him, and people don't talk about him that often. So
check this out. My old moment is watching the Bills game on Sunday. That said the oldest running back in the league is 32 years old, and I'm 30. Hear about this?
wow.
D'Amico Ryans, the Texans head coach. My wife was saying like, oh, well, he looks young, but he doesn't look, that young. I'm like, well, he's younger than both of us. So, now it used to be, hey, these players are younger than me. Now it's, hey, these coaches are younger than me.
Yeah.
Oh shit. All right. Yeah. So it's good stuff. Good
Young
stuff.
man's game.
It creeps up on you quick, guys.
Right.
Andrew, why are you like this? Why are you the way that you are? I don't know. So, hey man, you reading any spooky books for October? You not participating in all that madness?
I'm not. I'm reading a bunch of other stuff. Reading some Guy Gabriel Kay. Just finished Under Heaven, which was amazing. I'm actually reading. Up next is Philip's second book, Prophet to be Damned. So that one's up next. And I'm actually reading a short story collection that I'm not done with, but is one of the best I've ever read. It's the Paper Menagerie, Ken Liu. It's so good. It's really interesting. I thought it was going to be a bunch of fantasy tales because he wrote Dandelion Dynasty, and it's not. There's more sci-fi than anything in it. It's really interesting, but he's a really great writer. I've been enjoying those, just kind of reading one a night. Those have been good, but yeah, no spooky season for me this year. I had too many. My physical TBR is out of control. So
sorry, I'm pretty hit or miss on mine so far. It's like I liked the Nick Cutter book. I didn't really care for the Adam Neville book. I'm kind of on They Thirst right now, and I know everybody's going to be shocked by that because I think I did myself a disservice with McCammon by reading Swan Song and Boy's Life first. Because nothing's going to compare to that, right? I think that's just such a.
Those are the only two I've read. So
yeah, they're amazing, and I'm just like, this is the second one I've read, and this one's not bad. It's just like, dude, I'm at like the 60% mark, and you're introducing new characters every chapter. I'm like, I don't even know who the main characters are, and I'm in 60% of the book, and I'm not sure who the main characters are. That's I mean, he's very good, but it's just like.
Well, it's probably, if you read Stephen King, if you read It and The Stand, and then picked up Tommyknockers, you'd probably. That wouldn't be the best order.
Well, so. I remember reading the Tommyknockers not that long after it, and I'm like, this is the same guy? This is the same author? Really?
Yeah. Right.
What is your least favorite Stephen King book?
Probably either the Gwendy trilogy or Sleeping Beauties.
Oh, Sleeping Beauties was bad. I'm convinced that Sleeping Beauties was just Owen King, and he slapped his name on there to make him feel better.
Well, it started with such promise. I said it was on that tag video. It started, I thought they were going to write a great feminist novel, and then it turned into like a bad B movie at the end. I mean, it was so bad. It was so disappointing.
Oh, it was painful. That was one of those where I was like, why do I have this thing where like I'm gonna finish a King book regardless of how I feel about it? Because man, that was the most I ever wanted to DNF a King book. It was like seriously, like Multiverse. If I get that far, I might skip that one. I say that's an Owen King. I don't do collaboration.
Actually, no. The worst King book is Dance Macabre, that nonfiction thing about the horror genre written in the 70s. Because it's like hundreds of pages about like radio dramas, and it's just that was interminable.
Yeah, I heard you guys like Slice of Life. Here we go.
Yeah, try this.
With me, it probably, if it isn't Tommyknockers, it's probably Regulators. Like Regulators. I understood what he was going for. Just didn't work for me. Yeah. I
don't know. I liked Regulators just because, I mean, it was obvious it was almost a writing experiment. He was going to write Desperation and the Regulators together, and so I guess I appreciated it a little bit more.
Like people like one way more than the other one when it comes.
Oh
to
yeah.
I had problems with Desperation, but it was freaking The Stand compared to Regulators, I think. So, oh yes, oh man, Talents, man. Yeah. I should have
reread those. I'm going to reread
those. It's got not Dark Tower, but sort of Dark Tower, and I just could not get past that character of Richard in that book. It drove me so bad. I said, it's like going on vacation with an ambulance, man. Shut up, you crybaby. It just killed me. And that's why I say I blamed it all on Peter Straub, because I was like, there's no way that King's doing this, because I've never hated a King character this much. Even if I'm not liking his book, I love his character. Like, I don't like Tommy Knockers. I think Guard's a fascinating character. You know, I had lots of things in there that I liked about Guard. I could not stand Richard, man. Oh God, he's the worst.
I'm actually going to reread it next year. I've been doing this gradual reread of all of the non-Dark Tower books that have Dark Tower connections, so that I can then like reread the whole series.
I am excited to read Black House, because I've never read Black House, and people that didn't like me to say they were really crazy about Talisman, they said they really liked Black House. So maybe that'll be more what I'm looking for. We'll see. So that'll be a first time read for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I had that breakup period after Dark Tower 7. I didn't read King for like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, and I'm a huge JFK assassination. Just give me all the knowledge about the JFK assassination. And that was the only thing that got me back. So I had that breakup period. You guys wait for decade plus for Dark Tower books and get what he gives you in book 6 and see if you're not upset about it. So I know you guys all binge it now and you don't have that problem, but yes, I had those problems. I was
I mean, I had problems with book 6, but I did like the ultimate ending. You know, the last chapter.
It's it. And the thing is,
you know,
people think I don't like the ending. No. I don't like book 6 at all. And I don't like about half of book 7. And I don't like the way that he handles the Man in Black. I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
And I don't like the last battle. That's pretty stupid too. But this would be a completely different show if we start talking about the things I don't like. And Dark Tower is still a top 5 series all time for me. It's just I mean, the good stuff is so much better than everything else out there, you know. So that's what it is. You're not helping me here, Frank. You're not helping me here at all. Because everyone talked about Crossroads of Twilight, and I was like, why didn't you guys tell me about Path of Daggers and Winter's Heart? Jesus. Jeez, I went into Crossroads of Twilight expecting it, you know, so I had that guard up, and it's like, it's not good, but it's not as bad as you guys said. I was like, Path of Crappers. Oh, God.
Which one was the 8th one?
Path of Crappers.
Yeah, that was the second worst easily. Yeah.
The shortest book in the series. Yeah. And it's one of the most, somehow it felt like the longest.
Really. Yeah. No, I mean, Crossroads was horrendous. It should have been 10 pages instead of whatever it was.
Yeah, it's reading 11/22/63. Well, I'm glad, you know, I hear this all the time.
Oh, nice.
I get this. I get this so much, and it drives me. It shouldn't bother me because I'm just happy that people are reading it. But all the time, people are like, oh, I don't have time to read that. I don't have time to read that. Oh, Theo said I should read this, so I've got to read it now. I'm like, what the fuck, guys? Oh, Joanna said I should read it. Now, look, Joanna's much prettier than me. She probably convinced me to read it before, you know, someone else would too. But I get that so much. That's why I was joking about the Pillars of the Earth thing. I've been telling you guys 3 years to read Pillars of the Earth. Someone else in the Discord says they love it. I'm like, oh, shit, I'm going to read it right now.
Hey, it's the same thing. You know, I direct my orchestra and I'll tell them something. We'll have a guest come in and it'll say the exact same thing to them and then they'll believe them. Like,
I'm like, wait, you guys trust me
like 5 times. Okay, now you believe what I say because the new stranger comes in.
Oh man. So hey, before we go, you watching anything? You watching anything on TV right now? The Tube movies?
Not really. It's kind of football season, so that's about all I'm watching. But the next thing I'll start watching is the next season of Bosch Legacy is either about to come out or just came out. So I do kind of like that show. I think Titus Welliver is Harry Bosch.
He's amazing.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's the next thing I will watch, but haven't been watching a whole lot. It's a busy time at work and I have a pretty full TBR to try to keep up with too. So
yeah, we're doing the new Mike Flanagan series, the one based on Edgar Allan Poe stuff, and we've only gotten to watch a couple because football season.
Yeah, I've heard good things. I've seen people posting about it.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I was not apprehensive because I think Mike Flanagan's amazing and everything he does is great. But I was kind of like, oh, I don't know about moving some of these 200-year-old stories and putting them in a modern setting, how that's going to go over. And all we've seen so far is Massacre by Death. It's great the way that he did it. And so, I mean, I don't know if you've read a lot of Poe, but it's just like, people were worried it wasn't going to be as disturbing as Poe. You ain't got to worry about that shit. No, it's good. The end of episode 2 will be you might need a barf bag. Just put it that way.
Oh, nice.
So, it's up there. No, look, Brian, I know that the Vikings aren't good this year, and I know that they should trade Kirk Cousins, but you're talking to a Texans fan, okay? This is the first good thing that's happened to us in a decade plus. So I mean, just let us have this one. Let us have this one, okay? Let's have this one. And Josh is a Buckeye, so he understands. He gets it too. So I'm excited. So, are you a Cowboys fan?
I grew up a Steelers fan.
Dude, I bet that goes over well in Cowboys country. Woo!
Actually, it was great. My second year in Dallas, the Steelers came to town and we won. It was actually Roethlisberger's like first season and big comeback against the Cowboys. But it was amazing. The stadium was about 1/3 Steelers fans because we're everywhere. And it was just great to be in Dallas as the voice of reason with this very dysfunctional Jerry Jones franchise. And I can just talk about my Steelers and the Rooneys and a couple Super Bowls while I was there. So,
I was annoyed a few weeks ago when the Steelers were here and that stadium was pro Steelers. And I was like, God, they travel so well, Steelers fans.
I mean, it was the same thing in Dallas. I remember it was Dexter Coakley in the interview after the game. He said, I came out of the tunnel for pregame and I heard myself getting booed and had to look to make sure I was still in Dallas. So, but Steeler fans, we travel really well.
Yeah, they always do. And I mean, I admire that fan base. I mean, I grew up watching the old NFL film stuff. I loved like the Mean Joe Green and the Terry Bradshaw Steelers. I love those teams, man. They were
absolutely
before my time. But as far as like going back and like studying the history of the stuff, like I love to do, I was like, that is the best. That's the best dynasty ever. Even over the Niners of the 80s, and the Cowboys of the 90s. That 70s Steelers team was just unreal. And I still love watching TV every single weekend on Fox NFL Sunday. He's great. It's the best. All right, now we're boring everyone with a sports stuff. Guess we should go. Well, hey, I think I want to say thank you for joining us at short notice. I did have a cancellation. I asked Josh to step up a month early, and he was able to do so. So, thank you for having no real life like me, to where you can just jump on this whenever you want. And I'm kidding. He's got much. You brought up that during the pandemic when we were like, "Oh, stay home." You're like, "Well, that's what I was going to do anyway." I'm glad that there are not the only ones like that. So when I have Friday night and I'm at home and people are like, "Yeah, we're going out," and I'm like, "Have fun, sucker." You saw that thing where I have some younger friends and they were going out on Friday and I was like, I haven't seen them in a while. I go out. They're saying we're going to start at 9 o'clock. I'm like, it's way too late for me. You're going to start at 9 o'clock? What? Why not 6 or 7?
I had a friend last weekend with a party that started at 9:30, and the whole time I was just dreading it, and it was great, but
I was like, man, I was thinking about leaving at about 9. You're talking about starting,
right?
That's great.
I always say how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, right. No, I was like, I'm in bed reading at 9 o'clock, son. What you talking about? Well, hey, thanks for joining us, guys, and Josh. I hope it is great week for you. Got anything cool coming up? Any cool videos on tap coming on your channel?
I did. I had to backlog a few because I have a whole bunch of weekend events in the next few weeks. But next one coming out this weekend, I did my favorite books, ... according to Goodreads. So I looked at my Goodreads profile and talk about the highest rated books and whether I agree with them or not. So it was kind of fun to just see, what Goodreads thought about, what I read. So so that's dropping on the channel Sunday morning. So
I have the scariest Stephen King books tomorrow. So
nice.
I'll be interested to see where you fall on that if you agree. Because unlike most of that stuff, I actually count novellas and short stories on this one. There are a few in there.
Okay.
So, so some good stuff in there. And I'll just go ahead and let you guys know Skeleton Crew is awesome. If you haven't read a short story collection of King, Skeleton Crew, still the best. Still the best. All right, guys, have a great evening. And click down below. Subscribe to Josh's channel because he deserves to get to 5,000 before the end of the year. I mean, I can't believe you're not there yet.
We'll see.
Hey, at least you got more than Andrew.
No,
you don't actually. Oh, no, I saw him bragging the other day.
Andrew's got more than me.
666 or something because he's evil. Love you, Andrew. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you soon.